These are the original vintage NHT SuperZero A450 speakers. They came out in 1994, and they were the smallest of a line of designs by a gentleman named Ken Kantor. Mr. Kantor's aim at that time was to design a small, inexpensive, real-world speaker that had as flat a frequency response as possible within its given range. The SuperZero is a mini monitor speaker. It's a sealed box design, very small in size, with a width of 5.5 inches, a depth of 5 inches, and a height of 9 inches. It's finished in gloss black laminate with good quality 5-way binding posts on the rear and a basic plastic and fabric 4-peg grill up front. For such an inexpensive speaker, it has excellent fit and finish. The laminate looks quite good, although it does get marked up very easily with fingerprints, but on the other hand, they're very easy to clean. The drivers consist of a 4.5-inch paper cone woofer and a 1-inch fabric dome tweeter. The SuperZero's frequency response is listed as 85 Hz to 25 kHz, plus or minus 3 decibels. The crossover is set to 2.2 kHz, and its slope to the tweeter is 6 decibels per octave. Its crossover is a minimalist design consisting of only 2 capacitors. Their power handling is 100 watts maximum and with a 15 watts minimum amplifier requirement. Given their sealed box design, they can easily be placed close to walls or in bookshelves. With that said, their performance, on the other hand, is such that they deserve to be treated as proper high-end audio gear. Proper placement can reap incredible performance out of these, if time is taken to do so. Small changes in position can make big differences in the way these things perform. In my case, I have them on stands a few feet away from the walls, spread fairly widely apart, and pointed just outside of the line to my ears at listening position. These speakers were designed without the mid-bass hump, which is common to small speakers in this price range, which are trying to sound bigger than they actually are. Since the SuperZeros produce no usable bass at all, a subwoofer is mandatory to fill in the bottom end. Their sound is quite anemic otherwise without one in the mix. Once properly set up with a subwoofer that's been dialed in my case, my sub's crossed over at almost exactly 85 Hz and its volume is set to about 1/3 of its maximum. These speakers will amaze you with how well they produce the human voice and how good they can sound overall. For their cost, the sound quality is excellent. Their performance is on par with speakers costing much more. No bullshit here. Now, because of their small size, they image extremely well, and when correctly positioned, they have a great sense of spaciousness. They have very good width, depth, and air, and they produce a very vivid soundscape, with the performers and instruments very solidly and distinctly positioned in space. Further, they handle all genres of music quite well. They really do Ella Fitzgerald justice, but they give up nothing for the likes of 60s and 70s rock music like Led Zeppelin and later 90s rock such as Nirvana, Pearl Jam, etc. Many speakers I've owned butcher those styles of music, but the NHT SuperZeros handle them with aplomb. As mentioned at the onset of this video, these particular SuperZeros are the original vintage version. So I cannot speak to the new version. However, if they do perform on par with this old model, then they're quite a good buy at under $200 Canadian per pair. With that said, from what I've read, there are a few differences between the two models. The first of which is that the newer model has slightly thinner walls, so it's not quite as robust or heavy speaker as the original SuperZero. From my understanding, I don't have first-hand experience with this, however. The other difference, though, is a technical difference, whereupon the crossover slope between the tweeter and the subwoofer is 12 decibels per octave. So with a 12 decibel per octave slope, there's a much better handoff between the woofer and the tweeter. It's a much cleaner handoff. Whether that improves the sound or not, whether it's noticeable or not in real world listening, again, I'm sorry I don't have any first-hand experience on that. So, if you're looking for high quality, inexpensive speakers for music and movie watching, if you can find a used pair of SuperZeros for $150 Canadian or less, I'd say go for it. Or if you'd like, you can try out the new version at just under $200 a pair Canadian. Again, though, the caveat is I don't have firsthand experience with those, so buyer beware. I'd like to add that I've owned many NHT models over the years, the original 90s version, which I bought new back in those years. I've owned a pair of NHT 2s, one pair of NHT 2.3s, three pairs of NHT 1.3s, one pair of 1.5s, a pair of 2.5i's, and a VS 2.4 center speaker. I guess suffice it to say that at one point I was an NHT fanboy, and with very good reason, because in every single case, the NHT speakers I've owned have punched well above their weight. I picked up these SuperZeros just on a whim, just for some fun. As I continue in my audiophile journey, which, by the way, started with me when I was 12 years old, and it hasn't let up since, and I'm currently 48 years old. So as I continue in my audiophile journey, I enjoy putting together small, inexpensive systems that offer excellent bang for the buck. I'm so impressed with these SuperZeros that I will be keeping them rather than reselling them as I initially intended. And coming from this audiophile lifer, that speaks volumes. Anyway, guys, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.